There's a photo from my wedding day on my mother's mantelpiece. I'm beaming, my eyes full of a naive, shimmering hope. Everyone said I looked radiant. But a year later, under the harsh fluorescent light of our master bathroom, I caught my reflection and I didn't recognize the woman staring back. The light in her eyes was gone, replaced by this hollow watchfulness. Her shoulders were stooped, as if carrying an invisible weight. I looked from my reflection to the wedding photo on my phone, and a single, chilling thought echoed in the silence. Who did this to her? And the answer was the most terrifying thing of all. I had let it happen.
That haunting question is one so many women have whispered to themselves in the quiet moments of their lives. Welcome to Unbroken Women. I'm your host, Susan Bentley. Today, we are sharing the powerful story of Sofia Ramirez from Texas, a woman who had the perfect life on paper, but was slowly suffocating in a gilded cage of love and control. Her journey to reclaim her own reflection is a testament to the quiet strength that can break the heaviest chains.
Growing up, family was everything. Big Sunday dinners, overlapping conversations, the comforting chaos of aunts and cousins filling every room. Tradition wasn't just a word, it was the rhythm of our lives. I loved it. I thrived in it. When I met Michael, it felt like the final perfect piece of my life clicking into place. He was charming, respected, and came from a family just like mine. Our parents were ecstatic. He was the ideal match, they'd say, beaming. And I believed them. I was so in love with the picture we created. The handsome husband, the beautiful home, the promise of a future that looked exactly like the one I was raised to want. I had a passion for graphic design, a little freelance business I'd been nurturing, but I happily put it on the back burner. This was the main event. Being a wife, building a home, creating that perfect harmony, that was my new purpose. The wedding was a fairy tale. I remember thinking as we danced our first dance that I had never been happier. I felt safe, cherished, and on the exact right path. The world felt full of promise, and I was stepping into it with the man who was supposed to be my partner in everything. The change was so gradual, I'd barely noticed it. At first, his advice felt like affection. Maybe that dress is a little much for a family dinner, honey. You have such a classic style. Or, do you really need to post that picture? Our life is private. It's sacred. It was always framed as him protecting me, protecting us. He'd critique my friends, calling them a little wild, a little too career-focused. He'd suggest I prune my social media to curate an image of dignity and grace. And I, wanting to be the perfect, supportive wife, agreed. I started second-guessing every choice. What would Michael think of this outfit? What would he say if I called that friend? The weight wasn't in his rules, not directly. It was in the constant, humming anxiety of preempting his disapproval. My world, once so vibrant and full of people, began to shrink. It became our home, his family, and my careful performance within it. I was always on stage, and he was the only person in the audience. The first real whisper came on a Tuesday afternoon. I was scrolling through my phone, and an old college friend had posted an album from a solo trip to Italy. She was standing in front of the Colosseum, grinning, messy hair, wearing a ridiculous tourist t-shirt. She looked so free, and I felt this sharp, painful pang in my chest. It wasn't just envy, it was a profound sense of loss. I remember talking about that trip with her years ago. I quickly closed the app, a wave of guilt washing over me. I had a beautiful home, a husband who provided for me. Why was I fantasizing about being alone in Rome? The whisper came back a few weeks later. I was getting dressed for his parents' anniversary party, holding up 2 dresses. One was a simple navy blue sheath he loved. The other was a brighter floral print that felt more me. I found myself automatically reaching for the navy blue, just to avoid the sigh, the subtle look of disappointment, the quiet, "You look nice, but..." It was a small thing, but it stopped me. I stood there, in my underwear, holding both dresses, and realized I couldn't remember the last time I had chosen something purely because it made me happy. The real crack in the foundation came from the most innocent of places, a book club. An old acquaintance from the neighborhood sent me a message. A group of women, my age, were starting one. They were reading a novel I loved. For a moment, a spark of the old Sofia ignited. A reason to get out of the house. A conversation that wasn't about meal planning or what his boss said at work. I was genuinely excited. I mentioned it to Michael that evening, trying to sound casual. "Doesn't that sound nice?" I asked. He just smiled, a tight, placid smile. "It does, sweetheart," he said, and changed the subject. The next day, I couldn't find the message on my computer. I searched everywhere. I thought maybe I had dreamed it. That evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, he said, "Oh, about that book club thing? I saw the message. I deleted it for you." I just stared at him, my heart turning to ice. "You what?" He didn't even look up from the counter he was wiping. "Honey, you don't need that. It's just a bunch of gossiping women. You're better than that." He came over, put his hands on my shoulders, and looked at me with this look of intense, patronizing concern. "Why do you need that kind of external validation? Isn't our life enough for you?" He said it so calmly, so reasonably. But what I heard was, "I control what you see. I control who you talk to. I control what you're allowed to want." In that moment, he wasn't my protector. He was my warden. And the beautiful home we lived in suddenly felt like a cage. My first instinct was to smooth it over, to rationalize. He's just being protective. He works so hard for us. The least I can do is focus on our home. Maybe he's right. Maybe I am being needy. I spent the next few weeks trying desperately to stuff the feeling down, to be the wife he wanted. I smiled brighter, cooked his favorite meals. I agreed with everything he said. But underneath, a toxic fear was growing. It lived in my stomach, a constant turning knot. I'd lie awake at night, his steady breathing beside me, and my own heart would be pounding in my ears. I was terrified of him, but I was even more terrified of what would happen if I pushed back. What would my family say? They adored him. They'd tell me I was being ungrateful, dramatic. Marriage is about compromise, Sophia. You have a life other women dream of. I could hear their voices already. The fear of their judgment, of their disappointment, was a physical weight. It felt heavier than his control. I imagined leaving, and all I could see was a black hole of uncertainty. Where would I go? What would I do? I'd be alone, a failure, the family disgrace. And so I chose the familiar pain over the terrifying unknown. I stayed. I smiled, and I felt myself disappearing, one tiny piece at a time. The end of that version of me came on a Thursday night. We'd had another one of our quiet, suffocating arguments. It was over something laughably small. I'd forgotten to pick up his dry cleaning. But it wasn't about the dry cleaning. It was about my incompetence, my thoughtlessness, my failure to prioritize his needs. He didn't yell. He never yelled. He just spoke to me with a chilling disappointment that made me feel about 2 inches tall. He went to bed, and I was left standing in the kitchen, the silence ringing in my ears. I felt utterly, completely alone. I walked into our master bathroom, the one with the perfect lighting and expensive tiles, and I leaned on the marble countertop, my hands gripping the edge. I looked up and saw my own face in the mirror. And for the first time, I truly saw her. The dark circles under her eyes, the forced tight set of her jaw, the absolute vacancy in her gaze. There was no spark, no life, just a hollowed out shell. And in that moment, something inside me didn't just crack, it shattered. A sob ripped through me, a sound I didn't recognize. I slid down the wall to the cold floor, hugging my knees, and I wept. I wept for the vibrant girl in the wedding photo, for the friend who dreamed of Italy, for the woman who just wanted to join a book club. I wept because I had let her die. And I knew, with a certainty that cut through all the fear, that I couldn't spend one more day in this beautiful, silent tomb.
Sitting there on the cold tile, the tears finally slowing, a new feeling began to crystallize out of the despair. Resolve. It wasn't loud or angry. It was a cold, quiet, and terrifyingly clear thought. I have to get out. The words themselves felt like a betrayal of my vows, of my family, of the girl who believed in fairy tales. Everything I had ever been taught screamed that this was wrong, that I should try harder, be better, fix this. But the woman in the mirror, the hollow-eyed stranger, she knew the truth. This wasn't fixable. You can't fix a cage by decorating the bars. The decision was an act of rebellion against my entire world. It meant choosing myself over the harmony I was conditioned to protect. I didn't know how I would do it. I had no money of my own, no plan. But in that moment, the how didn't matter as much as the I must. It was the most terrifying and the most honest decision of my life.
My first act of treason took place the next day. Michael was at work. The house was silent. I sat on our bed, my laptop open and my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. I researched opening a bank account online. My hands were shaking so much I kept mistyping. Every creak of the house, every car that drove by sent a jolt of panic through me. This felt more illicit than any affair. This was a secret that was mine alone. I found a bank, filled out the forms, and then came the hardest part, funding it. We had a joint savings account. I calculated the smallest amount I could take that he might not notice right away, $200. I transferred it, my finger hovering over the confirm button for what felt like an eternity. When it was done, a confirmation screen popped up. And in that moment, I felt a dizzying mix of pure terror and a wild, exhilarating rush of power. It was just $200, but it was my $200. It was my escape fund. It was the first brick I laid on a path out of that house and back to myself.
He sensed the shift before I said a word. It's funny, the people who seek to control you are exquisitely sensitive to when they are losing it. I was quieter, more distant. I stopped trying to anticipate his moods. I was living inside my own head, making my secret plans, and the space that created between us was a palpable thing. His response was to tighten the screws. It wasn't overt, it was insidious. He started forgetting his phone at home, and I knew he was activating the location tracker to see if I left the house. He'd pick up my phone while I was in the shower and casually ask later, "Who's this person who texted you?" He began making comments in front of his family, little digs cloaked in concern. "Sofia's been so quiet lately, little unstable. I'm worried about her." He was building a narrative, painting me as fragile, as mentally unwell, so that if I ever did speak up, no one would believe me. His family rallied around him, treating me with a kind of gentle pity that was more infuriating than outright anger. They'd pull me aside, pat my hand, and say, "Michael loves you so much. You're just going through a phase." They were all, in their own way, reinforcing the bars of my cage, telling me my desire for freedom was a form of madness.
The hardest part wasn't his manipulation. It was my own mind. Every night was a battle. The guilt was a physical thing, a sickness in my gut. I had made vows. I was disappointing everyone who believed in me. I would lay there and listen to the cacophony of voices in my head. My mother's, my grandmother's, all telling me that a good woman makes it work, that happiness is a choice. Was I just weak? Was I throwing away a good life because it wasn't a perfect movie? Some nights the loneliness was so profound, I would almost wake him up. I'd almost confess everything, delete the secret bank account, and beg him to forgive me for my silent rebellion. The familiar pain seemed so much easier than the crushing weight of this secret fight. I missed the simplicity of just being unhappy. This new state, this war for my own soul, was utterly exhausting. I felt like I was losing my mind, just like he said I was.
My breaking point nearly became my defeat. It was a Sunday dinner at his parents' house. I walked in and the mood was wrong. They were all there. My parents, too. It was an ambush, an intervention. They sat me down in the living room, a circle of concerned, judging faces. Michael started talking about my erratic behavior and depression. Then his mother chimed in, her voice dripping with sorrow, about how I was being influenced by modern, selfish ideas. My own mother looked at me, her eyes pleading, and said, "Sofia, this isn't you. Don't throw this all away." They talked about God, about family honor, about my duty. His father delivered the final blow. He said if I chose to leave my husband, I would be choosing to leave the family. All of them. I would be disowned. I sat there, mute, as they diagnosed and condemned me. Every fear I had was being realized. I felt my spirit just collapse. In that moment, I believed them. I was crazy. I was wrong. I was utterly, completely alone. Surrender felt like the only option left. A quiet, final death.
I drove home from that intervention in a daze, the fight completely gone from me. I was ready to give up. I sat in my car in our driveway, unable to go inside. I mindlessly picked up my phone, my thumb scrolling through nothing. And then I saw it. A message notification from a number I didn't recognize. It was my distant cousin, the one who had left her own difficult marriage years ago and had been quietly ostracized for it. I hadn't spoken to her in years. The message was just one line. I heard what happened. Don't let them fool you. You're not crazy. Your feelings are real. That was it. But it was everything. It was a single, steady light in the suffocating darkness. It was external validation, not from a book club, but from someone who had walked the same fire. It was the whisper from the outside world that confirmed the whisper inside me was telling the truth. You are not alone. It didn't solve my problems, but it relit the pilot light in my soul. I wasn't going to surrender. That one message shifted everything. The climb back wasn't a sprint, it was a slow, painstaking ascent. My cousin became my secret lifeline.
I started reactivating my old freelance design contacts, taking on small projects I could do late at night after Michael was asleep. Each payment into my secret account felt like a victory. I enrolled in an online business course, telling Michael it was just a silly hobby to keep my mind busy. But it wasn't a hobby. It was me, building my escape route. I reconnected, cautiously, with one or two old friends I trusted, meeting for coffee in towns far from our own. Telling my story out loud, even to one person, and having them look at me with belief instead of pity was transformative. I was no longer just reacting to his control. I was proactively building my future. With every secret email sent, every dollar earned, every quiet conversation, I could feel my own strength returning. I was no longer the hollow woman in the mirror. I was a woman with a plan.
The day I served him with divorce papers, I was terrified, but it was a different kind of fear. It wasn't the fear of a victim, it was the fear of a warrior stepping onto the battlefield. When he saw the papers, his face went through a flicker of shock, then anger, then back to that familiar, patronizing concern. He started in on the old script that I was unstable, that I didn't know what I was doing, but this time I didn't shrink. I stood my ground, looked him directly in the eye, and said with a calmness that surprised even me, I know exactly what I'm doing. There was no yelling, no crying. I was just done. I had my own apartment lined up, my own money, a growing business. I no longer needed his approval or his permission. I was a whole person all on my own. I had finally, truly come home to myself. Sometimes I still see that photo of the girl on her wedding day, so full of hope. I don't feel pity for her anymore. I feel a deep, profound compassion. I want to whisper to her, your peace is not negotiable. Your gut feelings are not drama. And true love, real love, doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't dim your light to make its own seem brighter. That tiny whisper you hear, the one that says this isn't right, the one that says run, listen to it. It's the truest voice you'll ever know.
Thank you, Sofia, for sharing your incredibly courageous journey with us. What a powerful reminder that sometimes the bravest act is to listen to that quiet inner voice. If Sofia's story resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story matters. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Unbroken Women for more stories of resilience and triumph. We have a whole playlist of them waiting for you right now